When I was 13, my family relocated to a small, secluded town called Hollow Creek. Nestled in a valley surrounded by misty hills, the town seemed like something out of an old, forgotten storybook. Our new house, however, was anything but charming. Perched on the edge of a crumbling cliff, it overlooked a swampy forest locals called the Morning Woods. From the moment we arrived, an unshakable feeling of dread crept over me. Our first night in the house was unsettling. The floors groaned beneath our feet, the walls creaked as if they were alive, and the wind howled through gaps in the windows. From my bedroom, I could see the edge of the woods, the gnarled trees casting long shadows under the pale moonlight. It was hard to sleep with the sounds of the forest echoing in my ears. Rustling leaves, snapping branches, and once or twice what sounded like distant whispers. The days passed, but the sense of unease only grew stronger. My parents busied themselves unpacking and dismissed my complaints about the strange noises. "It's an old house," my dad said with a shrug, but there was something off about this place, about the entire town. The neighbors spoke in hushed tones, and their gazes lingered on me just a little too long. It felt like they knew something I didn't. One evening, as I was walking back from town, I heard someone call my name. The voice was faint, barely audible, and seemed to come from the direction of the woods. I stopped in my tracks, peering into the trees, but saw no one. The voice called again, louder this time, and I swear it sounded like my mother, but when I turned back toward the house, I saw her silhouette in the kitchen window. She was inside, nowhere near the woods. That night, I dreamt of the woods. In my dream, I was standing in a clearing surrounded by towering trees. A thick fog rolled in, and I could barely see my own hands in front of me. Shadows moved within the fog, whispering my name over and over. When I woke up, my heart was racing, and my room felt colder than usual. On my windowsill was a small pile of dirt and what looked like tiny, muddy footprints. Determined to figure out what was going on, I started asking questions around town. Most people avoided eye contact, muttering vague warnings to stay out of the woods. One old man, however, leaned in close and whispered, "The Morning Woods don't like to be disturbed. They take what they're owed." When I asked him what that meant, he only shook his head and walked away. Curiosity got the better of me. Late one night, I decided to explore the woods for myself. I waited until my parents were asleep, grabbed a flashlight, and slipped out of the house. The forest was eerily quiet, as though holding its breath. The deeper I ventured, the more oppressive the air became. The trees seemed to close in around me, their twisted branches reaching out like skeletal hands. After what felt like hours of walking, I came across a clearing. In the center stood a massive tree, its trunk scarred with strange, ancient symbols. Around the base of the tree were small mounds of dirt, each topped with a crude wooden cross. It looked like a forgotten graveyard. As I approached, I heard a low humming sound growing louder with each step. Then, from the corner of my eye, I saw movement, a shadow darting between the trees. "Who's there?" I called out, my voice trembling. The humming stopped abruptly, replaced by a chilling silence. Slowly, I backed away from the tree, but my foot caught on something and I fell. As I scrambled to my feet, I saw what had tripped me, a small, weathered box half buried in the dirt. I picked it up, brushing away the soil, and opened it. Inside was a collection of old photographs, each one showing the same thing. Children standing in front of the tree, their faces blank and emotionless. When I returned home, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. The box felt heavy in my hands, and I decided to hide it under my bed. That night, the whispers returned, louder than ever. They weren't coming from outside this time. They were inside my room. My flashlight flickered as I scanned the corners of the room, and for a brief moment I saw them. Shadowy figures standing in the corners, watching me. The next morning, I showed the photographs to my parents, but they brushed it off as an elaborate prank. Frustrated, I decided to return to the clearing during the day. The forest felt different in the sunlight, less menacing but still unsettling. When I reached the tree, the mounds of dirt were gone and the symbols on the trunk looked freshly carved. The humming sound returned, and this time, it seemed to come from beneath the ground. Digging beneath the tree with my bare hands, I uncovered a small rusted bell. As soon as I touched it, the forest came alive with noise, whispers, footsteps, and distant screams. I stumbled back, clutching the bell, and ran for home. That night, I placed the bell in the box of photographs on my desk, determined to figure out their connection. The more I studied the photographs, the more I noticed something strange. In every picture, the shadows in the background seemed to shift, as if alive. One shadow, in particular, appeared in every photo, always standing near the same child. When I looked closer, I realized the shadow had eyes that seemed to be staring directly at me. The following night, the shadows returned, but this time, they didn't stay in the corners. They moved closer, surrounding my bed. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. One of the shadows reached for the bell on my desk, and as soon as it touched it, a deafening roar filled the room. The shadows dissolved into smoke and I collapsed into unconsciousness. When I woke, the bell was gone, and my room was eerily quiet. My parents didn't believe me when I told them what had happened, but I knew the forest was to blame. I decided to return the photographs to the clearing, hoping it would put an end to the horrors. As I approached the tree, the shadows emerged once more, circling me like predators. They didn't attack, but their presence was suffocating. I placed the box at the base of the tree and whispered, "Take it back." The humming grew louder, and the ground beneath me began to shake. The shadows surrounded the tree, merging into one massive, writhing form. Just as I thought it would consume me, it stopped. The forest fell silent and the shadows vanished. For a while, the whispers stopped, and the house felt normal again, but the photographs continued to haunt my dreams. In every dream, the shadow with eyes was there, always watching, always waiting. One morning, I found a single photograph on my windowsill. It was a picture of me standing in front of the tree, my face blank and emotionless. On the back were two words, "Come home."